everybody on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us. We are connecting to our Instagram Live again. And once we get Caroline Shining on, we will begin our program for today. So once again, thank you so much for joining. Caroline, I'm adding you again on Instagram, and we're going to begin our nightly discussion. Thanks for taking the night out on a Monday night, May 4, to join us. And, if you have any questions, please feel free to comment in the chat box on Facebook or Instagram, and we will be able to answer any of your calls and your questions. So, Carolyn, are you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, perfect. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope we bring you guys great content today with regards to what the do's and don'ts on Instagram. And there goes my phone on live, but that's okay. So what I need you guys to do is comment below on my Instagram or my Facebook, and I'll be able to ask the questions to Carolyn. So today's guest is Caroline Shining from the Shining Law Firm, and she is an IP attorney. And we will get to know her a little bit more and ask all the pressing questions that are hot and in the news for today. So as you all know, I'm Christina Malian from Malian Law. I am a personal injury attorney, and I also practice in estate planning. I have been practicing for nearly a decade with over 15 years of experience in the legal field. I, do catastrophic injury cases and help individuals and families protect their assets from probate. But enough about me. Today's star and guest is Caroline Shining. Hi, Caroline. Thank you so much for taking the time on a Monday night to join me.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? I'm having the audio difficulty problem.
You're great. Everybody could hear you. Thumbs up to everybody that can hear us on Instagram, please, and also on Facebook. So if you can, if anybody from your family can share the Facebook from my feed, it'll be great because your audience can tune in too. So Caroline, before we begin, I just want to know a little bit about you. What kind of areas of practice of law do you do? How long have you been practicing, and where are you licensed to practice?
Okay, sure. Thank you. No, I've been an attorney for almost 30 years. I grew up in the Midwest. I went to the University of Michigan Law School. I work in intellectual property, which is patent, trademark, copyright, and also federal and state litigation. A lot of what I do is represent people who are starting out in their businesses, who need to build their trademark, copyright portfolios, get their technology protected, and that sort of thing.
Caroline, we're getting some comments with regards to a lot of echo on Instagram. Is it on Instagram only, or is it on Facebook as well? So do me a favor, Caroline, if you could move the phone away to like a side, it'll be great. As long as it points to you, it'll be fine, because I'll be monitoring the comments on Instagram. Thank you for Margarita and everybody. So okay, hopefully this will address it. Caroline, can you say something?
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, on my end it's better. I don't hear the echo.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So you are licensed to practice in California, and you do IP, copyright, trademark, correct?
Right.
Okay, so before we begin our session today, which is called Instagram 101, it's because there's hot pressing topics on what you can or cannot do with your rights. And the headline is Avoiding the Worst, but Protecting the Best. So with that said, Caroline, one of the biggest questions that we've had is, can Instagram terminate your account without any notice to you?
Unfortunately, absolutely. And they've done it for thousands of people. Beginning really last year, they started to sweep and go through accounts in just a massive way. It was it really finally only getting settled down in terms of their policy so you can get reinstated. But when you sign up, there's something called a term of use, and it absolutely is what they can do.
Okay, so with regards to what they can do, is you're saying they don't have to provide you any single notice, correct? You don't get like a message, a heads up.
They do not have to give you any notice at all. They will typically give you 3 strikes. Most social media platforms will give you 3 strikes, but it is not required.
Okay, I'm moving my my live feed because there's still an echo, but it might be my phone. Okay, without any more delays, what would you recommend our consumers to do? Is there somewhere they can go on Instagram that you know to read what rights these individuals have?
There's something called a term of use agreement, but also Instagram's webpage has quite a bit of information on it. If you just type in user agreement, then you'll get a whole list of things. But it's pretty legalese. It's very in-depth. You have to scroll all the way to the bottom of these pages to figure out how you can get back on. And part of the problem that people will have is that if you are terminated, if your account is deleted, you cannot get back any of that content or any of those followers' information. You're out in the cold.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the terms and conditions without going into further, like into the minutia. Now, who owns just as a general statement, who owns the rights to the content that is posted on Instagram?
Okay, that's the biggest issue right now. The Instagram user license is absolutely ironclad. It says you give Instagram the right to use photographs, basically a license to use. You still own the copyrights in the photographs. But with someone as powerful as Instagram, that is really, you're getting a lot of your rights taken away.
Now, is there anything that the users can do to protect how many followers they have or the content they have with regards to things that they post on Instagram?
Well, not generally through Instagram unless you sit down and you write down every name that you know of a follower who comes in, although you could do that. There are some programs that will help you pull out that information. They've been seen in the past as sort of black art or not a really good practice, but since Instagram can shut you down completely, I don't see how you have any choice but to sort of get these third-party apps and pull out lists of the people who are following you.
Okay, is there a way to bring bring back your Instagram once it has been terminated? Do we need to get an attorney involved, or is this something that our consumers, our watchers, our viewers can do on their own?
Well, if you get warnings, then your account is disabled. So say you have some posts taken down, or you have some, there's hashtags that actually get disabled nowadays. But those kinds of situations, you can go in, fill out a form with Instagram, and then accounts are taken back. Sometimes people will put you, will make a complaint, say that you're infringing on their copyright, and it's just a joke. It's a friend playing a trick, or it's a competitor, or there's so many things that can happen where Instagram will put you back.
Okay.
The issues really are when something is taken. Well, there's a couple of new cases I think people really need to be aware of.
We'll get to that. One thing, Carolyn, I think we have, my Instagram is blowing up. Lower the speaker a bit. Somebody says, can you try to lower yours or your speaker on your phone and your computer, if possible?
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for letting us know. I know we're having quite difficulty hosting a 2 live session. And I think because we're running both programs at the same time, we are having that trouble in getting the audio set pretty clearly.
Okay, I think I finally figured it out.
Oh, yeah, there's no echo right now, but place it a little further than your thing. Thanks, Luisa. Thanks, Margarita, for letting us know. Please let us know if you hear anything because I am monitoring the Instagram feed. Okay, we talked about the fact that, Instagram has the right without notice to bring down your account with regards to content you post, and it is in their, fine print terms and conditions. So with that said, Carolyn also did mention the fact that it is, you're able to get your account back, but it is is it a tedious process? I don't know if I understood whether or not, do we need an attorney or no?
You really can't get an attorney to help you. The Instagram is almost impossible to sue. And there were just these new couple of cases that you can easily fill out a form on Instagram's website. And if you aren't infringing, there's a whole list of things that you really shouldn't do. But the big one that I think is for people to understand is when you're selling products that are someone else's product. So you go out and you buy an expensive Birkin bag, and there are people who resell these, make a very good living. They're very, it's something that you would think would just be just like a resale shop.
Okay.
But when you, what happens is you can run afoul of Louis Vuitton, some of these bigger manufacturers will be out there looking for people looking like that. So when you have expensive bags, expensive watches, that kind of thing, you have to be very careful not to look like or give the impression that you are one of those bigger houses, that you're yourself.
So the issue is the fact that people go out to Louis Vuitton or Chanel or any name brand known, designer retail stores. They buy an item, they come back, they take a picture of that item and they post it on their Instagram and they resell it. Now, the issue arises that head honchos like Louis Vuitton, Chanel, and all the other designers will be able, or do filter through Instagrams, find these accounts and purposefully try to take them down, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and what is the issue with that? Why can't I go to the store, buy a bag, and try to resell it? What is Louis Vuitton's fear of me doing that?
Right. The reason that people get in trouble with that is they look too much like those big houses. So you'll put in your Instagram name, you'll say Louis Vuitton bags, that's your handle on Instagram, or you'll have a picture that has the logo of Louis Vuitton on it. So you're going too close to confusing your buyer with saying, well, this must be like an outlet. This must be some kind of agent that they have. So you have to make it very, very clear that what you're selling is an authentic bag, and you can trace the authenticness with the logo or some other way like that. You cannot, though, let the consumer think you're part of that company. Right. That's where they'll draw the line.
Okay, and what about the idea with regards to it being fair use? Isn't it fair use for you as a buyer to be able to resell it? I know I keep moving my phone for Instagram because the echo keeps getting bad and good. So I think we're better at
this. I'm really sorry for that.
So what is the fair use concept, and can somebody argue the fair use concept?
Okay. So what fair use is really limited to people who are not making a profit. So if you're a school teacher, even then it's really hard. But there are many factors in terms of the fair use. It's mainly that I'm so sorry that we've got so many noises going on here.
Yeah. I'm going to turn off our Instagram. Sorry, everybody. We will probably do a second session, or maybe we can log on in a little bit right after our Facebook. But join us on Facebook. You can follow me on Christina Mullion. I'm a public account, or Caroline Shiny. And look at the information. I do want to get the content out very clearly, because there's a lot of influencers and a lot of people who need this information. We will come back on Instagram separately, and that way we will not confuse the two. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, so going back to Facebook, we are all live on Facebook right now, and only Facebook. So thank you, everybody, for being patient. I'm so sorry that we're having so many audio and technical issues. It's better than not having any feed like I've experienced in the past. But with that said, is Carolyn, get back to what you were discussing regarding fair use.
Okay, so when you have, one of the big important things in fair, it's both trademarks and copyrights. So you have, they're two totally separate things, but a trademark is basically a sign of your goodwill. It's a sign that you're a great company, that product is going to be the highest quality because it has your name attached to it. So if there's any kind of suggestion that it's less than that, so that you're just a small store in somewhere in Los Angeles as opposed to their big flagship store in Rodeo, then they can come in and say, you're not as great as us. We really are going to put an end to your Instagram account. And those are the kinds of things Instagram takes very, very seriously and can close you down with no notice. So you really have to be very careful to draw that distinction in terms of trademark. You have their good. You have a thing that you bought, you stood in line to get that one Birkin bag. You have the right to resell that Birkin bag. That's something that you own and you can sell. But you don't have a right to confuse people and say, and it's coming from, it's coming from this gorgeous boutique atelier. So if you think about how you're going to name your store, think about what you put in your bio, and just make it clear that you're someone who is actually selling the thing that you bought, not the goodwill and the name of that brand. Copyright, it's a little different. We can talk about that. But a trademark is all about you saying to the world, my item is the top quality, the best. And they have to police that.
Absolutely. And I think that makes a good point for our users, that it all depends how clear and informative you make it, so that people do not confuse you with Louis Vuitton or a representative or owner or distributor or whatnot. Now, hot topic, Carolyn, and I know we've had multiple discussions on this. Obviously, we're in quarantine. We are safe at home. But if we do go out and about, we are currently, if it hasn't changed in the last 24 hours, still required to wear masks. And my Instagram feed and social media content has been blowing up with masks. And I've seen all kinds of them. I've even seen the LV, the Louis Vuitton print. I've seen Disney. I've seen Marvel. I've seen all kinds of different prints. But I've also seen some unique, rhinestones and everybody's own unique trade. So is there an issue with somebody selling masks with, let's say, Mickey Mouse on it, or Spider-Man, and so on and so forth?
Right, yes. Now, in addition to what we're talking about with trademarks, there's a second problem with the copyright level. And when you go and buy that print, and a lot of people are doing this too, because people need side jobs now. People need, they're staying at home, and this is a great way to possibly bring in some extra income in these times. So if you go and you find the fabric and it's already printed with a Disney character on it, that would be a great mask, you would think. But that image is still owned by Disney. Again, you have the fabric, but on there is a copyrighted image. Now, copyright is a little different. Copyright is something that's copied, obviously. It's what looks almost identical, or what they call substantially similar. So if you take that exact thing that it has the Disney character, the Marvel character, and you put it on a mask, there's an additional layer of licensing. The person who made that fabric licensed it from Disney, we hope, and they thought that you go make a tablecloth with it or curtain with it or something. But when you go to sell it, there's another problem with that, again, that you don't have that specific license to resell, and as you make it into something else. So there's many layers of copyrights, and as soon as you run into selling something that a Disney or someone, even another artist has, that copyright then kicks in as well.
Okay, that's great to know. But with regards to licensing, can you talk about a little bit more about that, Mian?
When you can go on the Disney website, you can actually go ask Disney for a license. They actually do. There are places where you can go ask Disney to give you a license. But when you have a piece of intellectual property, it's like if you imagine a pie or a cake, you can slice these different rights off it. And you say it's a non-exclusive license. You can use it globally. You can use it in California. You can use it for this, for that, for broadcast. You were asking me we were talking about TikTok. And when you go on the TikTok, you have these different songs that you could put in the backgrounds. And for the longest time, people would just throw anything up there and you might get a takedown notice. TikTok has now licensed. They've bought music from some of the major houses. So now you can get a license from TikTok to use it in your song. But before, you couldn't take a song and throw it on your TikTok video. You didn't have permission to do that. So a license is like permission to do that further thing, again, for profit. If you're giving things away to your church or to your family. If you're making something for them and you hand it to people, that's where you will be covered by fair use, or the first sale doctrine may make more come into play. But if you're making things for profit, you're putting them on Amazon or eBay, you have to be careful. They have investigators looking and looking and looking every day to protect those
and
images.
that's why these licensing laws and rights exist, and people make tons of money off of licensing products. So it's definitely something you should even consult with an attorney with regards to can you and can you not. With regards to the masks, if it is an individualized product where it is not infringing on any copyright issues, can they sell on Instagram?
If you come up with something unique and something, that's what it's designed to do, is help you put your mind down and say, I'm going to make this really creative. Now, again, Etsy is another place where people make things and they come up with things. Disney has no copyright in all the Cinderella stories that ever existed. They made a Cinderella. They made these images. They made a Belle, Beauty and the Beast. So you can't take that photo of Belle and put it on a cake or put it in a shirt, but you can make your own version of Beauty and the Beast. And so there's all kinds of ways that you're encouraged to draw and make your own, use your own imagination. And you can go around those concepts. They've been in the public domain. Etsy has a wonderful list of all the Disney movies that have been taken out of the public domain. They made their characters, but you can make an Alice in Wonderland. That's 200 years old.
Yeah. So now, one of the hottest things that we've heard recently, and I know you and I have talked about it, is with regards to photography. And I know there's a pressing case on the market with regards to New York and what happened. So essentially, this is a fair disclosure to all the photographers out there with regards to your images that you take and you put your blood and sweat to and post on Instagram. And so, Carolyn, I want you to talk about the New York case and what has taken place, giving us a brief history about it and where it's headed. What are we facing?
Yeah, well, the number of photographers who are using Instagram to promote, very, very high-end successful photographers is just growing and growing because it's a huge platform. I believe about 2 years ago, this is before this new case, but Tom Brady was caught in a photograph with this famous basketball player, I forget who it was, and not the basketball player, but the coach, and maybe they were going to trade him. So this picture of Tom Brady blew up on the internet, TMZ, Breitbart, all these people. Oh my God, they're going to trade, and the basketball people will know who it is for the Celtics. They sued against their use of that photo on all these different platforms. He won. The photographer in that case said, he won that case. You can't just rip my photograph off and take it in all these different places. So what happened with this new case is a very famous, serious photographer, news journalist, had her photograph taken off Instagram by a website called Mashable. People may have known about it. It's a lot like TMZ or BuzzFeed, like technology. And they took it and embedded it in one of their stories using Instagram's procedure. And a court in New York has said that was okay, that they were allowed, Mashable was able to take it. They can't come to her and said, we'll give you $50 for this photo. And she said, no, I don't want to be associated with this website. So it's going to be a real problem for professional
photographers. Why was Instagram allowed to take her photo?
Well, again, we go back to where we started at the beginning. Those terms of use, the user agreement for Instagram is very broad, and it contains a section that says, it doesn't say they own it. There are all these things on Facebook. You write a letter and you tell them, you own the photograph. They don't own it. They have a right to use it, to sub-license it, one of those slices on the cake.
So the question that's begging here is not the fact that they're not going to get ownership if somebody takes their material off of Instagram. It's the fact that they're not going to get paid for the work, correct?
Right. You won't get paid for it. It will be associated maybe with some website that you don't like and don't care for. This was limited to the way that Mashable used it. They weren't able to embed it. So they took it, there's a what's called an API, a little program you can use that you pull in. So the photographer she got credit, if you will. But the last place she wanted to be was on that website. She's very exclusive, very high end. So I think this impacts a lot of people who want their photographs to be in a particular forum, in a particular, taken seriously in a particular way, not made into a meme. And so if photographers need to kind of go back and say, if I'm putting my best photographs on Instagram, I have to be very careful.
So how can one photographer be careful? What can they do, if anything?
Well, you can continue to put, and it's not pretty, but you can put the watermarks across the photo. You can put in your you can put in your bio, you can explain, the different rights. There's also, and again, you have to kind of go back to old principles. Yahoo ran a photography website called Flickr, and it still exists. And when you post things on Flickr, you own everything. And people, to take them at all, you control the licensing rights. So there are other things. They're not as good as Instagram, but until this case will very much likely be appealed. But it may take years.
Right now, what stage is the case at?
Yeah, this was a judge in New York City.
Okay.
And so it'll probably go up to the Second Circuit, and it may even go to the Supreme Court at some point.
Okay, wow. So it's pressing times. When did this ruling come out? Was it very recent?
Yeah, April 15th, just 2 weeks ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. So what can the consumers do? What can they do with regards to protecting? If they make their account private, does that still allow them
Yes.
to claim rights? And what if I follow that private account and I still snap a photo off of Instagram? Can I still use it? Or is there a caveat or something carved out in the terms and conditions?
Yeah, that's why it's important to consult with a copyright attorney when you're really thinking through all these things, because again, you get into these different layers. The court did say if your account is private, then you control all those rights. Okay. And one of the key things about that case was that she had made that photograph public.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned earlier, I think while we were having some of our technical difficulties, that there are songs that you can put behind videos, not only on TikTok, but on Instagram. And Instagram can send you a message that it violates their community or their terms and conditions, or it's a copyright issue. And I know that from personal experience that I get a message in my inbox before they shut me down saying, hey, I violated an infringement or copyright issue, therefore I can't use it. But I've also been able to appeal it, even though it's taking a little longer time with COVID. I've also been able to, quote unquote, appeal it, meaning tell them that I think you're wrong. I'm not using it for profit. It's just, I like the music. It goes with the flow. Now, with regards to that, do you know who's monitoring the back end of, what is fair use, what is not? Inside Instagram, there are real human beings. And they do, when you do go through their appeal process, it's getting better and better. So they do actually, now it has actually an arbitration system, so that if you really do have a problem and you go through their format and you don't agree with them, you can go to arbitration. Oddly, as I was going back and looking at Prepare for Today, there's an opt-out. When you set up your Instagram account, there is a 30-day opt-out period where you can write them a letter that says, I'm opting out of your arbitration clause. I've never noticed it before, because people always come to me after they've already got their accounts in. But if you're starting up a brand new Instagram account, within 30 days of starting that account, you write, and their address is right in the Instagram terms, right on their website. You write them a letter that says, I'm not part of your arbitration. And then you can potentially bring a lawsuit against them, although that's not the easiest thing in the world to do. It also noticed, again, you can do it in small claims court. Oh, wow. Do you know where Instagram is based out of, like headquarters? Out of Menlo Park, up in Northern California. Okay, so it's California. Jurisdiction exists here for all those Californians watching us. So that's quite as easy, but it'll be interesting because Instagram is worldwide. Let's move on. I know TikTok, and if you know more about it, we can get into it. If not, we can keep it for another topic. I know TikTok is hot and exciting right now. For all of us who have nothing else to do in quarantine, have been on it. But I've also seen a lot of TikTok accounts being taken down, and messages being sent to them that it violates their community rules and guidelines. But I've also heard that these people have, reached out to TikTok, gotten their accounts back without any explanation as to community violations. Do you have any insight about that?
I have not had to deal with a TikTok takedown, but again, in getting ready for today, TikTok reported, because TikTok is owned by a Chinese entity, and it's a bit of a black box. And their takedown procedures are pretty new. Their getting back in procedures are pretty new. But supposedly they said there were only 2,000 complaints last year. So they said they only had 2,000 requests for takedown last year. That's all they're going to tell you about.
Okay.
It's still a bit of a black box. All these new licenses for music that they're getting, it's brand new. Literally in the last month, they made these announcements. There are still some smaller producers and publishers who are thinking about lawsuits to get them to enforce those things. But one of the things that's happening very, very fast is artificial intelligence is being used by all these companies to really dig into the songs that they're hearing, and even inside the memes. They're training the artificial intelligence to read when you have a meme that has words on it, to recognize those words with the artificial intelligence, and then it'll know, that word, hashtag, or whatever is in there, and that flags the system. So again, a lot of the tricks that people have used to kind of get by some of these guidelines, they're getting savvy to it.
Wow, that is very interesting. We're definitely moving on to new times now. That leads me to YouTube. I have heard, especially with the coronavirus, and people and doctors and healthcare officials releasing information and having their material be taken down. Any insight on YouTube?
Again, the YouTube takedown is even more of a Wild West. Because they keep shifting the standards of what they're doing. And on YouTube, it doesn't just impact sort of that immediate sales thing you have with your Instagram followers. It impacts the advertising. And I mentioned I had my 18-year-old tech person who's home from school at college. He mentioned today there's a phrase called adpocalypse. And so in the last year or two, Google has been faced with boycotts from people who have said, you're changing our ad model. You're completely stripping us from our income because there's child sensitive things that you make people post. There's different levels now you have to hit with your user to get paid with ad revenue. So it's a battlefield right now at YouTube as to how to get in and out of their takedowns and what they're catching and what they're not. But YouTube, you may need more of an attorney when you have serious income that's being impacted by the changes in their ad revenue.
And when you say changes in the ad rev, what does that mean for our followers?
When you get someone to watch or subscribe to a YouTube channel, you advertisements will pop up in the side. The more people that you have as an influencer or subscriber, the more money that you make. A penny, a nickel, 14, 15 million views starts to become money to you in your pocket.
Wow. So for those that are tuning in back to our Facebook, we are discussing regarding what rights you own on Instagram, on different social media platforms, what copyrights you have or you don't have, and what copyrights and other infringements you may have or those companies may have against you. So I have IP attorney Carolyn Shining with us again. I just want to rehash some of the things we did talk about earlier because of all the audio. I think we can clearly talk about it, and then I want to do a myth buster with you. So I think that's going to be really fun. With regards to Instagram, let's do the nuts and bolts. If you have a public account and you post anything on Instagram, you essentially pretty much are waiving your rights for those images and videos and everything to be used. Is that a correct statement?
Well, what you're doing, you still own it. What Instagram is given is a right to sub-license to whoever they feel they want to. And what they've been doing recently is allowing people to link through an API onto their website. And that's the scary part. That's the new scary part. So basically, you still own the copyright. But you give them
The
permission to
right
use
to
it
use without being paid. And essentially,
without being paid.
that's the bottom line, right? It's always the
Right.
bottom line of a dollar figure. So you give them a right to use that, and without being paid, may or may not get ownership credit, correct?
They do not need to give you credit.
Okay. And then with regards to all the products that you buy and resell on Instagram or any platform, the biggest issue is that you have to distinguish yourself from the name brand or the license holder, correct? For example, Disney, Louis Vuitton, Chanel. If you resell any of those products, you must make it clear that you are not a wholesaler or distributor on behalf of that company.
Right, that you're doing it on your own, that these are products that you own free and clear, that you're not related to them in any way. That's the key, is that you
Should
are
they
a
put a
separate
disclaimer
entity.
in the picture or in the bottom of the paragraph, anywhere?
It's hard on Instagram because you only get so much space. But yeah, if you put things in the comments, put the disclaimers that this is your product that you're selling and that you're not affiliated with those entities in any way, as many places as you can.
Okay, perfect. And let me see, I think we may have a question. Somebody's commenting on Facebook saying Facebook and Instagram are not fair. They allow trolls to report content that's not bad. I've seen much worse, but nothing happens to those posts. So interesting, right?
No, it's a one-way, it can feel like a one-way street because people are allowed to do takedown requests and then you have to go fight to get it back. But once you've done it once, it really, Instagram is starting to be more of a known quantity in terms of understanding that someone is just trying to be in the way, make a joke, or be a competitor that's making a problem. So they have a really good list of things that you need to give to them to show that you are the rightful owner.
Okay.
Now, where people get, yeah.
And the follow-up question to that is what can be done? So like you mentioned quite just like a few seconds ago, that they have a list of things if you follow through, they can help you regain, the fairness part of it.
Right. You want to, hopefully this has happened to you only once or twice and you're able to get it back and it's all works out. If you have a third problem, that's when you start to run into problems. They can close your account completely. They will close your account completely if they think it's really bad as well. The key is to protect yourself from that by maintaining good records and a good understanding of who your followers are. So that if the worst happens, you can pull back and at least go recontact people and say, I've started up a new account and here we are.
Okay.
Because once an account is deleted, there is no getting it back, even if you're able to prove to Instagram that it was a wrongful takedown.
Okay. And then finally, if we have more time and we'll connect right after, I'm going to do a Mythbuster. And then if we do want to do like a 15-minute quick update on our Instagram, that way our Instagram followers can hear us out too. I think I was in high school, maybe even younger. I heard that if I write my beautiful plan out on a piece of paper and I have this genius idea, if I write it out, put it in an envelope, self-address it, mail it to myself, have it been received through the postal service, and never open that letter anymore. And one day, years down the line, somebody copies my idea, that I actually have a copyright infringement case against them. So I've heard this, I've argued this, but I want to know from you, coming as from your stance and your practice.
Yeah, they teach you that on day one of patent lawyer school. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. That's kind of a advice for these matters. If you have an invention, if you have a copyright, a drawing, a recording, that you need to take care to talk to an attorney, learn. Sometimes there are simple copyrights you can do for yourself, but Gigi Hadad, she had a photographer took a picture of her. It was in the public domain. He owned it. She brought a lawsuit to try and stop him, and she made the simplest argument of all. You didn't go register it before you sued me. That's all. You didn't go file a piece of paper for $55 at the Copyright Office, and the judge threw the whole thing out. Couple $100,000 lawsuit that she won by making that argument that you didn't go actually do it the correct way. File it with the federal copyright, the Library of Congress, and the whole case was thrown out. So that just happened again in this last year. It's amazing to me how busy copyright law is in the last 2 or 3 years. We've just seen with the social media just going crazy. So many new copyright cases are coming out every week. It's really amazing.
What's the best thing to do in that kind of a situation?
Yeah, if you have things that are of value, if you have drawings, photographs, recordings, there are very simple ways to send those off to and register them with the Federal Copyright Office. It is not very expensive. It could, less than $100 to register your creative work. When you have a logo, when you have trademarks, when you have, when you contact an intellectual property lawyer, we'll walk you through kind of start here, start here, start here. You don't have to spend this enormous amount of money, at the very start of your company. You can walk through the beginning parts of it and then build that little by little by little. But until you really grasp sort of those little slices of what you're doing, you can really, your whole entire company can be at risk when you're a creative personality.
Wow. Now, Carolyn, do you offer consultations? How does your practice work? If somebody wants to just kind of, bounce ideas with you, or even have questions, like what form of policies do you have?
Yeah, most intellectual property lawyers will give you some free consultation time. It's almost impossible for me to know what you really need without having a real in-depth conversation with you. So for some people starting a new business and really kind of wanting to work out how that plan is going to go, I'll give a free hour consultation so that we know, okay, we're going to start with patents here, with trademarks here, with copyrights here, and we build out a whole plan.
Nice. And where can people reach you at?
Okay. You can go to my website, shininglawfirm.com. You can email me at info@shininglawfirm.com. And, Facebook, I'm there, and Instagram, and I'm starting up a TikTok so I can figure out the TikTok.
Awesome.
It's apparently the thing of the future, so I got to get on that.
Definitely keeping up with the times. So shininglawfirm.com, that's SHINING lawfirm.com. I'll put all that information in this video and in anywhere we post. But with that said, Carolyn, I want to thank you for taking the time and dealing with all the things we had to overcome earlier today. But I want to thank the audience for taking their time on a Monday night and joining us and listening. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, Christina Malyan, or if you have any IP, copyright infringement, patent questions, anything related, you can reach out to Carolyn Shining, and I'll have all of her information. And, I'm doing this with regards to a couple of attorneys, bringing them on, shining light to them in different areas of practice outside of my practice. And on Thursday, I will have our good friend and colleague, Erin Joyce, former State Bar defense prosecutor who now has her own defense firm and ethics consultation firm. So thank you so much, Carolyn. I will speak to you shortly once this program is over. Thank you, everybody. And we will answer all the questions in the comment section once you post. And we'll tune in back on Thursday at 7 p.m. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.